Okay, let's dive right into today's explainer. I'm really thrilled you're here because we're looking at a deceptively simple distinction that literally has the power to completely transform the quality of your leadership conversations. If you're leading teams, managing stakeholders, or sitting in on executive meetings, what we're about to cover is absolutely crucial. It's going to help you communicate more clearly, radically reduce conflict, and build serious trust, all by simply separating facts from opinions. So let's get into it.
Here is a quick look at our agenda for today. 1. The cause of breakdowns. 2. Assertions versus assessments. 3. Grounding your judgments. 4. Real-world leadership examples. And finally, 5. Putting it into practice.
All right, starting with section 1, the cause of breakdowns.
Now, what truly causes breakdowns in organizations? The foundational idea we really need to establish right away is that leadership language isn't just descriptive. Your words actually do things. They open up possibilities or they completely shut them down. They invite collaboration or they trigger immediate defensiveness. So I want you to ask yourself and really think about your own recent experiences. Reflect on a project where execution completely stalled out, or a moment where you actually felt trust eroding within your own team. Why did that happen? What was the real root cause? It's incredibly easy to just point the finger at quote-unquote bad people. We kind of fall into this trap, this misconception that organizational friction comes from problem individuals. But the reality is that it almost always stems from bad conversations. We mix up our facts and opinions. We present our personal judgments as if they're objective truths. We throw vague labels around in meetings, and then, we're genuinely surprised when trust vanishes. Which brings us to section 2, assertions versus assessments. So the crucial point is getting these two concepts crystal clear in your mind. That's your secret weapon. First up, let's look at an assertion. An assertion is a statement that is undeniably either true or false. It's a claim about the world that can be explicitly backed up or challenged with evidence. Think of these as your checkable facts. Did someone arrive after the agreed start time for the last 2 meetings? Well, just look at the calendar. Did we release 3 major features last quarter? Check the release log. Assertions are your objective data points. There's no arguing with them. Now, an assessment, by contrast, is a judgment or an opinion. It's how you personally interpret those facts, evaluate your people, or describe the state of your business. And let me be really clear about this. Assessments are not automatically a bad thing. In fact, as a leader, you're literally paid to make assessments about strategy, risk, culture, and talent. The danger, the real trap we fall into, happens when we pretend these subjective judgments are objective truths, or when we just offer them up without any proof at all. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast we're talking about. Consider the statement, customer turn increased from 8% to 11%, right? That is a clear, checkable assertion. Now contrast that with, this organization is resistant to change. That's an assessment. It's a judgment. If you walk into a meeting room and confidently state that second phrase like it's a cold, hard fact, you are immediately going to trigger a defensive reaction. Why? Because people can and absolutely will argue with your opinion. Moving on to section 3, grounding your judgments. Remember, our job as leaders isn't to stop making assessments. We need to make them, but they absolutely must be highly explicit and rigorously grounded. We've got to tie our opinions back to reality. And to do that, a grounded assessment requires 3 things: clear standards, a history of observable behavior or results, and the absence of well-grounded counterexamples. So saying something vague like, our governance model is not robust enough, is an ungrounded assessment. But if you anchor it in repeated data, saying, based on the last 4 quarters of missed cross-functional deadlines, my assessment is our governance model is not robust enough, boom. You've suddenly transformed a vague complaint into a powerful, grounded assessment that clearly points towards taking action. Okay, I want to purposefully slow down the pacing right here, because this right here is your mental speed check for live conversations. The power of the pause is incredible. Next time someone makes a strong statement in a meeting, pause and quickly run through these steps. 1. Is that an assertion or an assessment? 2. If it's an assertion, what's the evidence supporting it? 3. If it's an assessment, what standards and history are actually behind it? 4. Is the statement opening up better coordination, or are they just venting frustration? And 5. What request or decision should follow this? Let's jump into section 4, real-world leadership examples. Let's move to an actual business scenario to see just how transformational this language shift can be. Imagine a CIO presenting to a board of directors. The CIO states, we completed 63% of our cloud migration milestones in Q2. Now, what's really interesting about this is that it's a purely factual, data-driven assertion.
It sets a rock-solid baseline of objective reality that nobody in that room can argue with. Then, the CIO builds on that foundation by presenting the rest of the checkable facts, specifically noting that 3 out of 8 critical workloads missed their target dates by 2 to 4 weeks. Again, this is a pure assertion, grounded strictly in project data. The board is nodding along because they're looking at undeniable, checkable facts. And then, the CIO drops this quote: "My assessment is that our current vendor governance model is insufficient for a program of this complexity." Because the CIO explicitly labeled this statement as an assessment, it completely changes the entire dynamic of the boardroom. The board can look at the facts presented just before this, they can agree or disagree with the judgment, and they can quickly move to making decisions without anyone getting instantly defensive. It's clean, it's professional, and most importantly, it's actionable.
Let's look at another one, this time in performance feedback. A CTO is talking to a VP and tells them they missed the last 2 steering meetings and delayed 3 product decisions. Those are our assertions. Then the CTO gives the assessment. The operating rhythm is below VP level expectations. By separating the techable facts from the explicit judgment, it totally bypasses those exhausting, vague arguments about whether the VP is quote-unquote committed enough. Instead, it allows the two of them to design concrete, new operating habits based entirely on the data.
And this framework really highlights the danger of getting this wrong. Just think about opinions disguised as facts, vague labels like, "she's not a leader," or "employees don't care." Language like that quietly amplifies bias, it undermines fairness, and it basically closes doors for people. But look at the skillful move instead. Instead of saying, "she's not a leader," you say, "My assessment is she's not yet ready for a VP role because we haven't seen her coordinate across multiple functions over time." Man, do you feel the difference there? It releases all that tension, and it actually opens up a concrete path for real coaching. Finally, Section 5, putting it into practice. So, it's time to take this conceptual mental model and literally embed it into your daily leadership habits. We want you to actually use this today, so here's your 3-step action plan. Step 1, name the speech act. Literally start saying, "Here's my assertion," and "Here's my assessment." Now look, yes, it's going to feel a bit awkward for the first week, but stick with it because pretty soon your entire team is going to start mirroring that exact behavior. Step 2, ground your assessments with solid evidence and standards. And step 3, connect this new language to real commitments. Don't just describe the problem, move from your assessments straight into clear requests, offers, or promises, so you can actually coordinate action and drive change in your business. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to take with you today. Think about your very next meeting. Will you be making a grounded assessment, or will you just be disguising an opinion as a fact? The choice is entirely up to you, and it will absolutely dictate the success of your team's execution. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Start separating your assertions from your assessments today, and honestly, just watch how it transforms your leadership.